All right, Cyber Traders, good morning and welcome on back here this Wednesday, May 18th. For all of us in social media, Facebook Live, of course, you could tell this is not the voice of Fausto Pugliese. Once again, my name is Josh Levitan, tagging in for Fausto this morning. Great to see all of us live inside the trading room. Nina, Grant, Deb, Alex, James, Charles, John, Bill, Brian, and all of us here live. I mean, perfect timing right now with this AGRI trade. Not only breaking out right here and breaking above resistance off of 3, a really nice volume pop right now actually off that level, but it's actually breaking above the highs that we had from Monday. So perfect timing. Great to see all of us just alike here. Fausto actually out today. I want to send my condolences to his family. I think his uncle had passed away. So he's out today. I think he'll be back tomorrow, but uncertain on that. But with that in mind, though, just again, thoughts and prayers to Fausto's family. But let's hop to it, folks, here. AGRI, hey, with what I just mentioned before to top off this meeting, easily enough, we'll just put this on our watch list here to begin. So the AGRI trade, really, if anything, I want to just jump back to Monday's move and a couple of levels that we've been calling out and following, not just myself, but a couple of our students here. So the AGRI trade ended up running up for us really nicely here heading into Monday morning, Monday afternoon, ended up, running higher into the close as we always like to, hope for here at this point. But, we ended up seeing AGRI top off pretty sharply. It was in the after hours. I know one of us had mentioned 285 as a historical resistance. 285 could have been a bit of a level. I also noted 307 roughly. You want to focus on consistencies of these highs or lows that are, touching on the daily chart or weekly chart even. But, it's to say here on the daily, you could see 306, the low back from March 17th. And the more that you kind of just go through this kind of move here, you'll see like 308, 307 are roughly around there, 306, 308. One more little dip down here to 308. So with that, well, hey, heading into Monday's close, we were anticipating resistance to be off of 306 to 308. And with that, it ended up topping off right there in the after hours. But hey, we keep the stock on our side list. We're not guaranteeing continuation the next day. And it didn't continue the next day. It ended up just kind of chopping around yesterday, that was. And now finally, we're getting the bigger push. So John in from 280 right now. Anybody in on this trade here on the AGRI? I know that Chuck ended up just clocking out with like 30 cents himself in from 291 just a moment ago. Anybody in the AGRI trade live inside the cyber group room? John in right now. He said Kathleen in right now too. Mark says not I, but Mark, again, we talked about this yesterday. You can't catch them all, man. You had a really nice trade on one stock and the other one was running, and you can't get them both. It's very hard to. You were crushing it just before, Mark, on SQQQ. So I saw that before you, Robert, a couple of us, I think. So for right now, easily enough, we'll put this on our watch list here, and we'll see what else we can grab here, folks. We'll go from top to bottom. I want to go over a couple of moves that we ended up catching from yesterday, at least yesterday afternoon, namely the Rivian trade, the GLBE trade that was, even EGLX. We'll have a chance to look at that perhaps at the end. So let's go right from top to bottom first, and then we'll kind of recap any of the big moves that we caught from yesterday, if need be. So the Genius trade is on the top of the gainers list to start. It's up nearly 37% right now. Just the reason I'm going to put this on our watch list is because we're familiar with this stock. We've traded this stock back in 2020, and I wrote that inside the live trading room earlier today as a quick refresher for all of us here, because back in 2020, this stock ended up exploding, week over week here, but really we started to follow it off of, 150, I think it was at the time, 150, 140, then ended up taking off just, all the way up towards nearly 12. Well, from there, what goes up comes back down. We're not trying to swing trade this, but if it could provide us an opportunity to day trade it, day over day, we'll take it. How can we not? So what you hope for on this trade over time is to see it make a fraction of the type of pop that it made back then. And over that time, you could just see, a couple of weeks here where it ended up, making these big long wicks, right? These, bigger wicks here, at least you could see, pop and drop, pop and drop. So with that, it's repeated itself on a micro level. So for today, history again repeating itself. Just for right now, though, I would assume resistance to be right off the highs, if anything, at 1, or right off the highs there at 103. Look to see support build perhaps even as low as 85 cents, 83 cents even, and then go from there. But hey, my stance on the cheapies here. I'm not really too particular about these stocks because they normally don't make as concise of a move after the market opens. We're familiar with this trade, so that's one main reason. The other reason is it's still relatively you know active here at this time. It's not like it popped at 7 a.m. and then it's dumping off. It popped shortly prior to 8:30, but it's still holding relatively strong for right now, right? All right, so we got the top 2% gainers right now, the AGRI trade, then the Genius. The news out on Genius is actually pretty interesting. How about this really quickly before I move forward? I'm not going to do the news for every stock here today, folks. We want to be efficient with time, especially for all of our students and members in Cyber Group. You folks know I always want to make sure that you folks just are best prepared going into the open, making sure that we all have enough time. So for right now, Genius Brands, the news out on it, I thought it was kind of cool for any of my comic book fans out there, movie fans out there. Looks like they ended up signing a 20-year deal with Marvel Studios for a Stan Lee license. Now, this company's come out with news in the past with I think kids cartoon channel or network, and also an affiliation with Arnold Schwarzenegger in the past too. So some pretty funky news on this stock. But hey, interestingly enough, we'll see if this can make a higher high shortly after the market opens. John just got out right at 328 on the HERI trade, so let's just jump back to that for right now. Looks like it's shaking around a little bit, taking the money and running, rightfully so. Normally around this time, even a bit earlier, sometimes a bit later, but definitely right now, I'd say just within this vicinity, look to take the money and run. You could always get back in the trade, whether it be prior to the open or more so than anything after the market opens, after the first 3 to 5 minutes, really. NCMI for as much as we have moving right now, folks. I'll tell you, I mean, before 8 o'clock, it was slim pickings. It was really tough to try and put out a respectable watch list to everyone here. Really, when you look at a watch list, and for any of our members here, like Michael or Grant or Leda, and I could say a bunch of names, Kathleen, just you see that pre-market watch list, and you could tell there wasn't a whole lot on there that was that appealing. So hey, if you don't like seeing anything on that list, guess what? I'm really not a fan of putting that list out to begin with, right? But we're not just going to focus on one stock. I do see the opportunity in some trades. So, hey, the red box trade, the Viru trade didn't really make a great move. Target was a great short, but that was more expensive. But the NCMI trade, this was a real big dud here going into the pre-market, going into the 8 o'clock move. It took so long for it to even make this run or spike up off of 170. And then from there, it's just falling flat. So I'm really not too particular about this trade, just with the direction it's just moving in, or even lack thereof. But just given 3.4 million shares traded total across the pre-market, had the after hours activity to it as well. And, it's up 20%. I'll put this on our list, right? I'm not really drooling over it, but I'll put it on our list for right now. Hopefully this makes, a much better move, throughout the course of the day. We got a long time here, folks, 6 hours plus. So, hopefully it comes sooner than later, but we'll see. All right, so MX, another stock that I was not a fan of putting on the pre-market watch list. A lot more not of a fan of putting this compared to the NCMI. This one just, paper thin order book, just big spread throughout most of the pre-market trading, and just again spotty chart. So when you happen to see a bit of a spotty chart like this, it shows points of inactivity or low volume being traded. Like here at 8:18 Eastern time, 250 shares. That's like nothing. 300, 200 here. So, if we're trying to follow the big money and there's no big money to follow, then why are we trading it? Right. So I was more hopeful to see the big money come in at some point, but we just haven't had it yet. Right. Do we put this on the watch list still? Well, hey, we'll kind of see what happens here. I did like the NCMI a little bit more than this one, at least. So I'll put this one on the side list for right now. Not as appealing as the others. So we'll kind of just see what else we have, and maybe at the tail end, I'll put the MX back on. All right, so we happen to have a couple of ETFs on the gainer side here, folks, right? I know Mark and Robert were trading the SQQQ ETF. We have the LabD here, which is a bearish biotech. And with that, I want to jump to this SPY. It might like freeze up my screen here. So, just for reference, I'll just point out that the SPY heading into the market open, this morning, it's back down towards like 403 last I checked, around 403.50, 403, kind of pulling back down towards these, dips here back from yesterday. So, not a good sign. I'd anticipate continuation after the open. From yesterday afternoon, we were anticipating a nice slingshot into the close. And for the most part, that's what we got. It was a pretty nice move. So, that doesn't necessarily guarantee continuation the following day. I was pretty hopeful that we would have had it, but, we have to react with the market. We have to improvise here, when it comes to day trading. So, with that, I would look to use past support levels that the SPY was holding into the close as resistance and look to see if it could hold that, after the open and then for a further drop afterwards. That would be my first thought. So, in terms of the ETFs, I'm not really as particular about LabD as much. Very illiquid, if anything, and you can't even follow, the iceberg orders as well, at least on this. Just saying, with it being more illiquid, it's just even that much more volatile. FRO, not an ETF, but frontline, I think oil stock, if I'm not mistaken, ended up making like a bit of a gap up early in pre-market, but just kind of lower highs, trotting back down here right now. So, again, we'll pass on that. All right. SQQQ. And this one, at least for same price as LabD, a lot more liquid, looking at level 3. Moving up pretty nicely, right? So with that, markets are continuing to fall off, probably below 403, the SPY is by now. Just take a quick look. Still just above it, but getting pretty close. So for right now, at least, SQQQ is moving on up, but it's a little expensive, right? I'd rather look to follow the UVXY trade, if anything. If I'm going to put any of the ETFs on the list, it'll be UVXY. Mark out flat in from 52.27 just now. Brian commenting, UVXY is my baby inside our live trading room here. It's a few of ours. I know Johannes kills it on this stock. You do very nicely as well. Mark's been loving the SQQQ of late. So, hey, if you do well on these, then you know who you are. If you don't trade these, well, again, you know who you are. If you don't trade these, I would not look to follow these going into the open. But if you have good past history following these based off of basic charting or based off of perhaps other indicators, not necessarily level 3 because you can't really apply level 3 to an ETF like this, I'd say go for it. But otherwise, again, if you're not one of those members inside our room, I'd much rather you follow the NCMI or the AGRI trade, at least for right now. Or maybe Target if the markets are going to fall off and Target's coming off like not only bad earnings. I thought something else happened as well. Let me just get the headline on this one at least here too. This will be the only other one I'll get the news for. All right, so looks like earnings, they ended up reporting a drop in operating income margin rate along with it. Worse than expected quarter one EPS. There was some major company recently that ended up firing 150 employees. I forgot who it was though. It's not a good look for the market and the economy as a whole. But I don't know if that was Target or not. But nonetheless, though, obviously Target taking a huge hit here today. I would assume big support off 160 by the time the market opens up. So for right now, although pretty expensive, we're obviously going to focus on Target here today. And hey, if you don't want to trade the stock, you can try and trade the option if you're more familiar with buying puts. But nonetheless, either way, Target dropping back down or dropping off towards 160. All right. As we round up the loser side here, Macy's. Norman. I appreciate that. That's right. The second I saw that, I'm like, that's right, Netflix. Netflix ended up firing 150 employees, right? Because they ended up having like a huge drop off in subscribers and just income altogether. I think over the last quarter or year, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know the specific headline, but obviously the 150 employees one I remembered. But yeah, that's not a good look. Now, nonetheless, though, as we keep going, though, folks, Macy's down big right now. It's interesting, and I don't have an explanation as to why. Maybe an option sweep, maybe someone just taking out just You can't take out orders like this in pre-market, though, I'd say. But, you have a huge spike down in pre-market on Macy's yesterday. I remember calling this out. It popped up on my radar. I was like, holy crap, this thing just took a huge, hit. And it was live. It was in the moment. It wasn't like after the fact. So when it dropped, I was like, oh my God, what the hell just happened here? And then just flash spiked right back on up. From my experience, when I happen to see that, which isn't often, but with my experience with that, it normally doesn't make a great move afterwards. So, little pop, little drop, and then from there, hey, it's tradable, right? It's liquid. You could have done well on it, but nothing really to write home about. Now, for today, though, dropping back down and it's down over 7 or nearly 7.5% here. Oh, so earnings did come out. Oh no, 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 no. This is just in sympathy with Target, and that makes sense. But pretty interesting to see that flash spike down yesterday morning, though, on this Macy's trade, right? So hey, alongside Target, why not Macy's, right? Michael says JWN feeling the pain also. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that Kohl's. JWN is just not really trading as much volume, though, right? So not as particular about that. The Kohl's trade, same deal. So, I'm sure they'll all move in tandem, but I'd rather focus on the Macy's trade out of them. All right, folks, how about this? If there's anything else up, down, left, right, more than 5% that you'd want me to look at, just type it in the chat board here. Let me know. It's currently 9:16 Eastern time. Want to make sure that, we have enough time for the open. Aloha to Mac on YouTube joining us here on this morning, and Trini as well. All right, folks. Again, last call. If there's anything else, making a big move up or down, anything that we may have missed. Timing out my water breaks here nicely. All right. So Grant says save small spike. That's a nice tongue twister. Really trying to throw me off that, Grant. No, I forgot to go over this at least from yesterday, right? So at least let's go over a couple of the ones from yesterday with that in mind, right? So no, save. We had this on the watch list. Ended up running up beautifully for us heading into the close. Ended up popping above resistance at the time off 1990, and then really once it blasted 20 on the second try, ended up holding it as support, running up into the close like I'd said from there. So we actually ended up featuring two specific airlines on the watch list: Save and then American Airlines. American didn't make as sharp of a move, but I was more particular about the Save trade, if anything, because we ended up having the news come out on Save from Monday. And with news coming out, that garners a little bit more volume, and volume typically leads or anticipates to volatility. So with that, we figured that there was a chance that out of the airline, Save could have made the biggest move. Easy to say in hindsight, but hey, thankfully we were right. We're not always right in that sense, but we always have to improvise and react if we're going to be wrong. And with that, this just maintains such a smooth trend on the way up. Right now, though, Grant, again, kind of not really doing a whole lot here in pre-market. It's a good side list stock. Definitely a lot of good side list stocks, just with the way the market's been moving the last month, one or 2 months here. But for right now, I'll pass on this. If anything, I'm seeing a stock on the gainers side right now. I don't know if it popped up just now or recently, but up 6.29%. If you see it there on the bottom left, a stock that we are pretty familiar with, BBIG. Huh. I didn't notice this one up until right now. Now, I don't know if there's news or not on it. I would assume yes, given the after hours pop that we had here from 285 up to over 3, if anything over 310, it topped off at there. Moving back on up right now. This one's a little bit more active here in pre-market and from the after hours. I like this one a lot here actually. The BBIG. We'll definitely put this on our list. Norman says Redbox moving, so let's just jump back to a couple of the others that we were talking about from yesterday. Redbox, RDBX, from yesterday afternoon. This was one that we didn't have on the afternoon list. It didn't pop until 3 o'clock, but thankfully it popped at 3 o'clock because it gave us a full hour to try and follow it. And with that, similar to Save, Spirit Airlines, they're not related, but just another really big trend and move up heading into the close, and another nice run here. So great call from Norman. It's not even up anything right now. It's up 0.5%, down 0.2% or whatnot there. You could see, but making a strong move back up to the highs from yesterday. So that's a great call. I like that. And that's the reason why we had it on the pre-market watch list here this morning. We were just, hopeful for that move to happen a lot sooner than it did here, but better now than ever. All right, the Viru trade, another one. There we go. Finally, geez, but I mean, I wish this happened at 8 o'clock when I was actually prepared to trade, not doing this morning meeting. So, with that in mind, Viru definitely we're going to put back on our watch list. Right on our list it goes. Needless to be said, this ended up making a huge move yesterday, ended up breaking above significant historical resistance at 1450, ended up running up pretty nicely off like the third rebreak of the level. It took a while, which you would expect. It ended up running up really nicely from the open. So, just the more it goes up, you expect false breakouts off the first test at minimum. And we all know that at this point from what we go over, at least here in Traders Talk workshops or, class phase 1 through 3, classes, one-on-one coaching, obviously. Viru right now making a big pop. So, we're going to put this back on our list after the open. Just be a little careful though of a false break. That's the only thing I'll say there. I'm not wishing that into existence by saying that, but just be careful. Just be careful. If it snaps right back down, breaks right back down below 16, watch out. All right, RJF right there at the same time pointing out the Viru trade a couple minutes ago. So yeah, I mean, this looks really nice. I like it. All right, was there anything else that we missed? I think that we just about went through everything. Maybe the Rivian trade, RIVN, that was popping up really nicely for us during the afternoon meeting. We were in that trade, from the get-go and ran it up pretty nicely into the afternoon. Good sideless stock, trading 205,000 shares nearly into the open, but nothing really too special about it here. I'd probably say the same on my NEO trade. I love my NEO. Good direction on it actually from 8 o'clock going into the open. It bounced off of like 1625 and topped off at 1650, pulling back down. If anything, again, like, I love NEO. It's, definitely going to be on my side list personally, but for right now, at least, nothing really too special about it. All right, folks, that just about wraps it up for us here. For all of us on Facebook Live, YouTube, I believe Fausto will be back on the horn tomorrow morning. So, I always like to post my email here at the end of these streams. So if you have any other questions or thoughts or any questions that you may have in regards to our call outs or in regards to stock trading or crypto trading on top, feel more than free to send it on over to josh@c2trading.com. Or if you wanted to join us inside our live trading room, feel more than free to do so. Just go right down to the link on the blue banner below right there on the stream to get yourself started. But for Grant, for Leda, for Michael, for Patrick, Norman, Leda, Nina, Carol, all of us live here inside the Cyber Group room. I'll be back on the mic coming up in just about 8 or 7 minutes here. I got to refill up the water bottle. Talk to you soon.
Become a Cyber Group member today. Just click the link below and receive all these amazing products and a world of knowledge for just $9. Do it today.